big developments with the New York Jets, which is just where we'll start the show. I mean, so I was at a neighborhood night out last night.
Okay.
And I was like, oh man, I hate to miss the beginning of the game, but whatever. Like, surely I won't miss that much. And then not even like I looked down at my phone. I had like seriously like 30 new texts.
Yeah.
And like multiple things in like all caps, like lots of texts with like 6 question marks. Like the phrase like old man, I saw several times. My initial impression was like, oh man, I think Aaron Rodgers has thrown like 2 or 3 picks on the first 3 possessions.
Yeah.
No, it was much, much worse. Horrible development for the Jets. Horrible development for fantasy. Horrible development for anyone who loves NFL football. Aaron Rodgers, 1 pass attempt into his Jets career, has a ruptured Achilles tendon. He's done for the season. He might not ever play NFL football again. We know the fallout is bad. We saw it with our own eyes last night. Zach Wilson is still Zach Wilson. Almost no tangible progress that I could spot.
Yeah.
Just writ large, starting the show. How bad is this for the Jets? How bad is this for Garrett Wilson, the most affected party? Someone we wanted to be a wide receiver one. Someone who did score a touchdown, but had to make one of the greatest catches like the past 5 to 10 years to do it. What is the fallout for this Jets offense going from Aaron Rodgers to Zach Wilson?
Yeah, I mean, there's no 2 ways about it. Like, you can dream of like hyper efficiency. You can dream of more amazing catches by Garrett Wilson, and that was just a almost like miraculous catch in the end zone. I mean, like pure dog. Like that
pure dog. Yeah.
Like Garrett Wilson was not going to be denied. You could see that. And it's not going to happen, for him. Like that wide receiver, that top 12 or top 15 season, it's simply not happening based on numbers. Okay. Based on like pass volume. Okay. Based on the fact that Zach Wilson is among the least accurate, and honestly, least confident quarterbacks in the NFL. This team is going to shift hard to the run, which honestly might not be a bad plan with how their running backs looked against the Bills. The fact that they have a really solid defense, maybe the best defense in the whole league. So I think it can work from a real football standpoint. But if you have Garrett Wilson, I really think that you should, and I'm doing this in one league. Don't tell anyone, please. This is just between you and me, Pat. You're trying to take that miraculous catch from Monday night and you're trying to get something for it and sell for, I don't know, like Mike Evans or something like in that area. And I know that's bleak, but it is time because it's not going to happen with Zach Wilson.
It might be overly bleak, I feel like, on Garrett Wilson for the sole reason I don't think Zach Wilson is starting more than 2 or 3 games.
Oh, okay.
Like at max. I know they put on the brave face last night, so we're rolling with Zach Wilson. But
yeah,
I mean, not trying to say this is a bit. Like I'm pretty sure they're going to sign Joe Flacco.
Yeah,
they might sign Ryan Fitzpatrick. He might maybe making too much money. Probably making too much money from Amazon at this point. I mean, they might sign Carson Wentz. We were kind of waiting for like what kind of situation would make a team desperate enough to take another chance on Carson Wentz. You would definitely think this would qualify. Except for the problem is the Jets, obviously, no matter who the quarterback is, are going to be playing very conservative ball control offense with just wanting the quarterback to execute like 1 or 2 throws a drive. And you could see a coaching staff not having faith that Carson Wentz can do that anymore, how erratic, how inaccurate he has become. But I don't think Zach Wilson – I just don't think he's making more than 2 or 3 starts.
It is actually hard. It's hard to imagine because nothing has changed with Zach Wilson.
No.
He's still the same guy. I actually don't think that he is capable of operating a pro style offense. And I think the Jets know that the way that they handled themselves late in the game last night, actually, it was perfect. It was perfect, honestly, because it was super conservative, because they knew what they were dealing with. And they were dealing with a quarterback who cannot make plays. He simply can't. And he's shown that over and over and over. I am with you. They have to find an alternative and they can still make the playoffs. I really believe this team is good enough to make the postseason without Aaron Rodgers.
It's not even just that he can't make plays. It's that when he truly desperately actually has to make a play, it's just going to be like a turnover. Right. We saw that he did the thing. He was going out of bounds to avoid a hit, and at the last second committed the cardinal sin of throwing the ball back to the middle of the field. Like the literal number one thing you're not supposed to do in the NFL. And
Yeah.
it's like, all right, this guy hasn't learned a thing.
Everyone who's watched football once knows you don't do that.
No.
And this guy's been playing his whole life, and he still does that stuff.
Yeah, this isn't like a Trey Lance situation. Zach Wilson has actually played the game.
Right. He's actually played football.
He's actually played football. He's just not very good at it. And I hate, talking like so negatively about the young man, Zach Wilson, but they saw all they were ever going to need to see of Zach Wilson. The stuff they saw that we saw last year, I think they know that you're not going to mold that. You're not going to fix it. Because like a lot of it, like you said, appears to be confidence issues. Like easy for us to say from home, like to project that, but it seems to be confidence as much. And he's got physical issues, but it seems to be confidence almost as much as physical issues.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
The options, people are saying like, oh, they got to trade for Gardner Minshew, or they got to trade for Andy Dalton.
Mm-hmm.
They got to trade for Drew Lock. Fact check, true, but that also just won't happen. They would have to give up probably honestly a second or maybe even a first round pick to get some, because teams will just. It's too much of a luxury. Well, it's too much of a luxury for those teams. No one's going to trade you their backup quarterback for peanuts.
Right.
September. Right. Like it'd have to be a first round pick. Obviously, would never happen. So that's what I mean by like it's not happening.
Right.
A second or third round pick, if they were like truly desperate, they could maybe do that. But it would take like a premium this early in the season, I think, especially.
Yeah.
To get like a contending team's number. I mean, maybe they offer the Panthers a third round pick for Andy Dalton. That would be enough. But they would just gamble on a free agent at that point.
Yeah. I do just real quick on Breece Hall and Dalvin.
Well, we're going to talk about Breece Hall. I'm going to make one more final point about too.
Sure.
Clearly, they're going to lean on the run game. Like clearly, I just don't know. With Zach Wilson presenting so little threat in the passing game, the Jets were not like a good run blocking team last year. They actually earned Pro Football Focus highest run blocking grade of week 1 for whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
Weren't a good run blocking team last year. Defenses know they don't have to respect the pass right now. I just wonder if the run game, which looked great last night, obviously, could possibly look like that again. And by looked great, I mean, it was mostly like 2 big plays, 2 big Breece Hall runs. So, yeah, take us into your Breece Hall thoughts, because certainly appears I lost the Breece Hall argument, at least for 1 week.
I mean, he looked tremendous. The fact that he got taken down in the open field because Garrett Wilson decided to celebrate instead of block. And by the way, I'm not knocking Garrett Wilson, because Garrett Wilson was actually devastated. He was like very disappointed in himself that he had done that. I don't think that the Jets are used to Breece Hall not being 100%. And because, at 100%, he's breaking that. He's taking that.
Dude was gassed.
He was gassed.
Gassed.
He was gassed. I mean, and we've heard running backs who are coming back from major injuries say, like, oh, I have not done that since last year. Like, that is not running 80 yards as fast as I can. Not something I've done.
So harder than it looks.
Breece Hall, just to run down the splits here, 13 snaps for Dalvin Cook, 12 for Breece Hall. 13 carries for Dalvin Cook. He did basically nothing with him, 33 yards. Breece Hall had 10 carries for 127 yards, including that 83-yarder we talked about. He also had a 50-plus yarder. So lots of yards after contact. You would think that eventually Breece Hall will be the bell cow here. Now, the issue
bell cow's probably strong.
You think?
But you go for it. I'll weigh in then.
Yeah. So basically with Rodgers under center, they would have kept defenses honest and kept people out of the box. That's not going to happen with Zach Wilson. That might happen to an extent with a more viable starting quarterback if they go that direction. But the environment for those amazing rushing stats is going to be way tougher for Breece Hall now that Rodgers is down. I know you already knew that. I'm stating the obvious here, but he did look all the way back last night.
So I do think maybe the dynamic has instantly flipped. Maybe it was never flipped to begin with, where Breece Hall is at least the 1A. I kind of gambled that Dalvin Cook was the 1A, but I ranked both outside the top 24 for week 1. I think I ranked both outside the top 28. It's kind of like a cowardly hedge, basically. I do think it's probably safe to say Breece Hall is the 1A. But I don't think it'll be enough to be a bell cow, because we know now it's now a run-based offense. I mean, it was going to be a run-based offense before, but we now know it's like fully a run-based offense, and that to keep each other to keep the old man and Dalvin Cook fresh, to keep the young guy coming off major injury fresh, it's going going to be like a full-blown rotation, and maybe not even like a role-based backfield where it's like so-and-so handles the early down, so-and-so handles the third down. It's probably going to be like a drive-based offense. Like this is Dalvin's drive. This is Breece's drive, just to keep them fresh. And then, like you said, even if like they're cooking, there's no passing game to help sustain the drives. So if on first down, they only get a 2-yard gain, like that just further limits the compiling upside. It further limits the big play upside for the running backs. And that as good as Breece Hall looked at me too, like talk about a guy who just passed the eye test of flying colors. Yeah. It's going to be such a tougher environment, and that it's probably his high water mark, I bet, for the first quarter of the season, which is hard to believe when a guy can look that good against a pretty good Buffalo Bills defense. The Bills were teetering a little bit at the end of last year, but it's easy to be like, oh man, Breece is all the way back. He's going to be so amazing going forward for me. But I think that's probably his like early season high water mark, just for the variety of reasons we laid out.
Right. Look, I've reviewed the numbers. I've looked at the film, and I will say that I don't think we can project Breece Hall for 12.7 yards per carry going forward. would be my assertion here. Dalvin Cook, for what it's worth, appears to be the primary pass catching option out of the backfield for now. So no PPR scammy points for Breece Hall quite yet.
Off the top of your head, I think a little more in rankings brain than you do. Like I think in like quadrants, like so-and-so's in the 13 to 24 range, aka RB2.
Yeah.
Since I have to do that every week. Week 2, they're playing the Dallas friggin' Cowboys, who just unmasked the New York Giants and Daniel Jones. Now they get Zach Wilson. Can only mean ominous things for the entire Jets offense.
Oh my gosh.
Where as good as Breece looked, and confirming basically he was not just a special young player, but a special young player much closer to 100% health than we might have been led to believe. Where do you rank Breece Hall? What range do you rank Breece Hall for week 2?
That's a great question. Honestly, the Cowboys defense is going to break fantasy scoring over these first.
They did last year for a while.
I mean, they 30 plus points against the Giants. You can just pencil them in for 20 plus points against the Jets.
Yeah, the bare minimum, like an off day, they're getting 18 to 24.
Yeah, right. A good day, they're getting 45 against Zach Wilson and the Jets. I don't think I could put Breece Hall in the top 20 running backs. Probably outside the top 24.
Yeah, he's gonna be just on like Adrian Peterson, Rashad Penny type long run upside alone. I might jam him into the 24 to 30 range, but it's very difficult to see what's going to be such a horrid offensive environment getting him into the top 24.
I actually can't even fathom how ugly that will be.
No, I think the Jets schedule like stays really tough, by the way.
The first 6 games are really difficult.
This is bad.
They're playing the Chiefs, right?
People say this is bad news. This is bad news, man. This is bad news. They're playing the Cowboys. Then in week 3, they were playing the New England Patriots, who basically made Zach Wilson look like he was like still in college. The past 2 times they faced him. Wow. I think some of like the worst quarterback performance I've ever seen was Zach Wilson against Bill Belichick. Week 4, they have the Chiefs, who not only can they not match points to the Chiefs, I mean, maybe the defense can hold the Chiefs in check for a little bit, but the Chiefs have a pretty good defense. The Chiefs defense tends to get underrated because there's so much focus on the offense.
And by the way, they play Kansas City on a little station called NBC.
They don't want me to say this. The Suits, who I'm on good terms with, don't want me to say this. We're sorry that we have the Jets, but we think that it could still be a good game for how good this Jets defense is looking. It'll hopefully still be a good game on week 4 on Sunday Night Football.
Unless Congress intervenes, but
Congress might intervene and they might force us to schedule a different game. But week 5, then the Denver Broncos have a little good defense. The week 6, the Eagles. How is this possible?
Wow. Oh,
then they have a bye. So if they don't have a new quarterback by week 6, they will have a new quarterback when they come off bye in week 8 against the New York Giants.
They will have to. Listen, Jets fans, I know you and I don't get along all that well. I want you to enjoy that Monday night victory. That's all I'm going to say. Just enjoy it.
Just enjoy it. Our producer, Adam, by the way, shared Breece Hall's quote about getting caught from behind last night. He said, I hadn't played in a game in a year, and he vowed to never get caught from behind again.
All right. Well, that's noted.
We shall see. We'll talk about the other half of this game right now. Where Josh Allen, 3 picks, a lost fumble, lots of really fruitless hero ball, lots of continued disregard for his body. Like several times we're just kind of cringing, like, why did he allow that hit to happen to him? And then just why did he force that ball down the field? And like, why does it look like the 2020 wild card game against the Houston Texans all over again? That comparison was getting thrown around on Twitter where just totally out of control, Josh Allen. Basically pre-Brian Dable, Josh Allen. And we still got a few wow plays, but just out of control stuff against an elite defense. That is a very important caveat. But, I mean, do we have any, quote, concern for Josh? Is that like a dumb concept? Because, like, even when this guy's, like, committing 1 million turnovers, he's probably still scoring 1 million fantasy points. But do we have any concern about Josh Allen after that performance?
I don't think so. I mean, the Jets defense is ferocious. Okay. Especially at home, especially with the rah-rah, like let's rally around, the injured Gipper type thing going on Monday night. And so that was going to be difficult. And the Jets kind of have Josh Allen's number. So, I'm willing to sort of forget about Monday night for Josh Allen. He completed over 70% of his passes. I know a lot of them were short, they under 6 yards per attempt. That's not something you don't necessarily want to see unless you're a Stefan Diggs manager. Then that works for you. The rushing will still be there. I think that Monday night confirmed that there's no reeling in the Josh Allen's dog levels. Like, no. You can tell him, hey, we don't want you doing that. But when the rubber meets the road, as the Zoomers are always telling me, he's going to run. He's going to put his body in harm's way, and he's still going to get that rushing production for you. So I think he'll be okay. And
it just also confirmed, maybe I'm speaking too soon after one game against an elite defense, that just all the same offensive issues remain. It's just still like kind of an identity crisis offense. Like, who is the number 2 target? Is it Gabe Davis? Is it Dalton Kincaid? Like, what are they actually trying to accomplish with their running game? I still don't ever really know like the theory of the Bills rushing attack is. It changes like week to week. The personnel has always changed week to week. Hopefully that's not the case this year. But it seems like it is going to remain the case. Like they can't decide who they want to be the 1B to James Cook between Damian Harris and Latavius Murray. And I just look at the team and I think identity crisis. Mm-hmm. And they've got to get it figured out. But I'll tell you where I am not concerned about Josh Allen, Denny Carter, is in week 2 against the Las Vegas Raiders.
I think he'll be okay.
Not concerned about, even though they did look kind of good against Russell Wilson. Not concerned about that matchup. I'm not
Russ did okay. Russ
did do okay. Yeah. They got him on the move. I was told by Mark Garcia. They got him on the move on our recap show. I still haven't seen that game. But you know what I'm also not concerned about, Denny?
What aren't you concerned about?
Is taking a short break and being right back after this.
Okay.
Now that the NFL season is in full swing, we have got you covered. In addition to our 3 shows a week of Rotoworld Football Show, check out the Fantasy Football Happy Hour with Matthew Berry and Bet the Edge every weekday. You can watch the Happy Hour at noon and 4 p.m. Eastern on Peacock. It's also available on the NFL and NBC Sports YouTube page. And Bet the Edge drops Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. on our NBC Sports YouTube page. Both shows are also available wherever you listen to podcasts. Really good stuff with really good friends on both those shows.
Yep.
Check it out. Check out the Rotoworld Football Show. Check it out right now since you are currently listening to it. And we've got a lot more to talk about. Denny, is it already over for the Pittsburgh Steelers? They the hype, the perfect preseason went up in smoke pretty quickly against the San Francisco 49ers. Like first drive quickly was like quite clear they were going to get utterly dominated. Then they had like one bright spot in the second half, a Diontae Johnson catch and run, and he popped his hamstring while doing it. He's out multiple weeks. Talk about identity crisis, total identity crisis in the running back in their backfield. They don't know what they want Najee Harris to do anymore. They don't really know what they want Jaylen Warren to do alongside Najee Harris. George Pickens, people have already heard me use this line on our podcast this week, I believe. He made it. You'll never believe this. He made an amazing catch, but it was out of bounds and didn't count and was against the stickiest coverage on the entire planet. Allen Robinson had his best game in 2 years. I guess that's a good thing. But where the heck are we at with the Pittsburgh Steelers, who now this week play the Cleveland Browns, who just forced the very worst game of Joe Burrow's career?
Oh, it's looking bad for the Steelers, for Kenny Pickett. I guess what you're asking me, is it Jover?
I put that in the show sheet, and then I intentionally didn't say Jover, but it's looking Jover. Everyone knows that. No one was saying it, but everyone knows that.
we like some Jover. Yeah, I mean it's over. Like the Steelers, they're completely lost now. The 7 targets for Pickens, just from a fantasy standpoint. Let's just talk about that real quick. Fantasy standpoint, Pickens gets 7 targets, tied for the lead on the team with Allen Robinson with 7 targets as well. Calvin Austin, who was kind of a preseason standout for Pittsburgh, 6 catches on 6 targets, mostly of the very short variety.
37 yards on those 6 catches.
Right. So it's more of a PPR scam situation with Austin. And Jalen Warren, 5 catches on 6 targets. He took the vast majority of the pass catching work out of it.
Say Jalen Warren's yards too, by the way.
We have a total of 12 yards for Jalen Warren.
Yes.
But
not trying to kill the vibe, just really killed the vibe of the pod with that. Wow, we lost all momentum. It's destabilized by that.
So just from a zoomed out standpoint, the Steelers led the entire league in week 1 in neutral pass rate. Okay. So basically that's not incorporating the fact that they fell behind by 25 scores in this game. Like they were pass heavy in neutral situations. That's going to continue. They lost Cam Hayward, defensive standout for the next 2 months at least.
Really? I did not see it was that long.
Yeah. Groin injury. He's going to undergo surgery. Won't see him until November probably. So this defense could be more vulnerable than we thought. I think that they could throw a lot, volume wise. That could be okay for these pass catchers, for Pat Freiermuth too. But for Pickett, man, I mean, you can't possibly start Pickett outside of like deep super flex leagues this week. So
especially with Diontae Johnson,
right? I think that dream of Pickett being the late round quarterback to have, that is at least deferred, if possibly Jover.
Yes, might be Jover. And we're not trying to give the audience whiplash. It's not like we were ever like steaming Kenny Pickett, but we were like, all right, like they are checking all the summer boxes. I think we like talk about them literally like checking all the summer hype boxes. It was still Kenny Pickett though, so we were still skeptical. But that being said, we were cautiously optimistic. We're not trying to like just fully pull the plug after one bad game, but it would be one thing if it was just the one bad game. There's one bad game and then losing Diontae Johnson was just like really, really, really bad double whammy. And now getting this Browns defense where, again, I don't know what they were doing to Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow needs to go back to the lab.
They were pressuring him a lot.
They were. I was seeing like the film watchers, the people who don't just watch the dots, they were apparently doing all sorts of crazy stuff with Myles Garrett and getting him like lined up against guards. And then he was just like running right by them. He was like just like waltzing by the Bengals interior offensive line and immediately sacking Joe Burrow.
Speaking of scary pass rushers, just real quick, did you see that clip of Geno Smith yelling, "Oh my God"?
I did.
Aaron Donald was bearing down on him.
Aaron Donald was about to fight like tire iron in a parking lot.
Right. So Aaron Donald was bearing down, about to just crush Geno Smith, and you hear Geno Smith go, "Oh my God." I was like, "Oh, these guys are just like me."
No, they're just like us. They're just like us in the bowling alley parking lot where they somehow have provoked Aaron Donald. He's ready to fight. I don't know what to say. He's but it's not quite as bleak schedule-wise for the Steelers. It's pretty bleak personnel-wise. Schedule-wise, so they get the Browns. That's bleak. They go on the road to Vegas. Well, that'll be a home Steelers game. Oh my God, that'll be like 80% Steelers fans in Vegas. On the road to Houston, then playing the Ravens, and then they're bye. Some turnaround, like it's Mike Tomlin. Like they're gonna be 2-3 at worst. They're gonna somehow win 2 of those next 4 games. I have no idea how, but they're not gonna produce fantasy points in the process.
No.
Real quick, too, it's the Browns and Steelers on Monday Night Football. ESPN, Denny, they're a competitor, but they're also our friends. They're also our football media partners. We want football media to remain popular. We want people to keep watching football. ESPN, they've got this Monday night doubleheader everyone's all excited about, very much including us. And then they have 2 games where the over-under is currently 40.
What's the other one?
Saints, Panthers, Browns, Steelers.
What?
We're bringing 40 totaled football to Monday nights, folks.
Wait. I thought that the point of the doubleheader was to have a West Coast game.
No, they don't do that anymore. I guess the ratings for that were bad. So they're doing a game at 6:15 Eastern and 7:15 Eastern and 8:15 Eastern. They want people to like be channel flipping between their ESPN, their Disney properties.
Yeah. All right. Well, I used to like the 10 o'clock West Coast game. But
I did too. I loved it. I don't know why we got rid of it. Subscribe to Peacock.
Yes.
Subscribe to Peacock. Please do that. Denny, you told me you just wanted the floor on the Chargers backfield where there was like a 50-50 split in week 1, and now Austin Ekeler is nursing an ankle injury that he didn't play through. So what do you want to say about the Chargers backfield?
Yeah, so they were the run heaviest team in the NFL in week 1, as we told you all off season. No, we didn't. But they were super conservative, and it worked, folks, and it worked. According to Chargers beat writers, this is the plan going forward. This was not a one-off. They are going to.
Where'd you read that?
The Athletic, a little publication called The Athletic.
Maybe heavily invested in Justin Herbert throwing 42 times a game.
Yeah, you and me both, brother.
Didn't need to hear that.
We don't love to hear that. Yeah, let me just read you something from The Athletic. But first of all, the Chargers, split the backfield. Also, Joshua Kelley ran a route on 39% of the dropbacks, which is not great for Ekeler. Here's from The Athletic. On Sunday, the Chargers faced a heavy dose of light boxes while facing Vic Fangio's Dolphins defense. There were 6 or fewer defenders in the box on more than 60% of the Chargers' offensive snaps. That was the 6th highest rate in the entire league in week 1. Against these looks, the Chargers offense averaged nearly 4.7 yards per rush and finished with the 5th highest EPA per rush in the league. In other words, they were very good against light boxes, both Josh Kelley and Austin Ekeler. Ekeler, of course, ripped off a 55-yarder in that game. So that kind of skewed his totals. So this is going to be an offense that tries to establish it. I wouldn't be surprised if they do that again here in week 2. And honestly, it makes. Look, I know you're going to vomit here on air. But,
I actually might. Let's turn off my camera. Turn off my camera, please.
It is time for your weekly vomit on air, and it makes Josh Kelley. I really do think that it makes Josh Kelley a locked-in top 12.
Stop.
Option. Wait. If Ekeler is out.
Okay. Well, hold on. He's not gonna be top 12 even if Eckler's out.
Really?
I was worried you were gonna say like top 30. I was
top
like, even that is bad.
If Eckler's out.
Well, Eckler's out. No, I mean he's out. I'll say like RB 21. The main problem is that he's not good, man. He's just not good.
That doesn't matter.
This is like his 50th career game. His previous career high for rushing was 64. This is like a fluke to me.
I don't know. I would play him over like Joe Mixon.
Play him over Isaiah Spiller.
Oh, come on, man. Isaiah Spiller was a healthy scratch.
He was a healthy scratch. Hold on. Josh Kelley, okay, he's played 38 career games. And he had never had more than 64 yards rushing until he put up 91. This guy's bad, man. His career, the most boomer stat ever, his career yards per carry is 3.6. And that's like in an offense where defenses have to respect the pass so much. I'm sure he's been facing a lot of light boxes in his career. This guy can't get anything going, man.
All right. Well, you're stashing him. I think that we'll agree on that.
Yeah, you are.
Kelley should be stashed in all 12 team leagues.
That's undebatable. Yeah, sorry. I was taking it too far the other direction. Way too far the other direction.
Really did. One more thing. I gotta get this in because I have a lot of numbers on this backfield. Josh Kelley had 2 green zone rushing attempts to 4 for Ekeler. So Ekeler's not getting all of the inside the 10 action like we're used to seeing.
And this guy should have never asked for more money, apparently.
He's being punished, maybe.
Yeah, this is workplace, what are they like retaliation, man?
Retaliation.
Yeah, this is retaliation.
We're going to make Josh Kelley a thing for you since you asked for slightly more money.
We're going to give Josh Kelley 16 carries and then lose the game. I know Chargers fans been all over me because I've been complaining about how much they're running. I'm like, well, I don't know if you knew this little thing called it worked. It did work. They have a point.
I love that. I especially love that from Jets fans who say Zach Wilson won, didn't he?
Yeah, I know.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, the Chargers fans do have a point. Well, excuse me, Chargers fan, the singular fan.
Oh, come on.
Sorry. It did work. It did work. I'll give him that. Even though it made me physically ill, it worked. You told me you also wanted to talk about the Rams backfield, where Kyren Williams, I was going to say, played Cam Akers to a standstill. He did not do that. He grossly outsnapped him, grossly outtouched him, dominated all the work when it actually mattered. I think you told me, or someone told me, 11 of Cam Akers' 22 carries somehow came on the final 2 drives. He was not getting work. He was getting some work, but it was pure breather back work when the game was in doubt. What do you want to tell the folks about the Rams backfield? We're getting a lot of questions about it, understandably so.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know exactly how the carries were split up according to quarter or game script, but I mean, Akers did end up with 22 carries to 15 for Kyren Williams.
He did. Seriously, 11 of them came the final 2 series. Apparently, John Daigle, our friend, had a tweet breaking down the usage where it was all Kyren Williams, man. I keep saying man today. It was all Kyren Williams, the first 3 quarters, and all the important snaps, the first 3 quarters.
Well, look, Kyren Williams had 3 inside the 10 rushes. Akers had 2. I'm not ready to declare this Jover. I think that's the last time I'll say that. But I mean, I think that Cam Akers is gonna be an annoyance for Kyren Williams at best, really. Now I will say Kyren Williams ran a route on 75% of the team's dropbacks. That's really good. Akers, according to PFF, had 0 pass routes against the Seahawks.
So updated. That seems low.
I know. I can't imagine that he didn't run any, but anyway, Kyren Williams is the clear pass catching back. He's the one to start in this backfield. I don't think Cam Akers is just gonna not be a thing at all, though.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, Sean McVay throws the car in reverse a lot. A lot. We also know that he was totally infatuated with Kyren Williams last year. But then he broke his hand, broke his foot, or whatever,
like that,
near the end of the summer. Maybe it was week 1 against the Bills last year, or then it was kind of Jover for Kyren Williams very early in the season. And but that looked like a kind of a clear hostile takeover to me. I think I might almost be willing to declare this one finished already because Cam Akers, it's been 2 years since he tore the Achilles. We saw 2 or 3 good games at the end of last season, but we've seen he was the one Ram who didn't produce Sunday. I mean, he was put in a lot of bad, obvious clock killing situations again. In 22 carries for 29 yards, though. Yeah,
I know. It's the as Kyle Dvorak said, he's not beating the the plotter accusations anytime soon.
No, his lawyer, he's changed legal teams actually. He's trying to hire your legal team since you've staved off termination.
They will never.
For 3 years. They would never leave you. I know they're like family to you at this point.
They do. They live in my office.
I heard this is kind of weird. Not to take people too behind the curtain. Your legal team does come to your house for Thanksgiving at this point because you've spent so much time with them. They think your family's lovely. You think their families are lovely.
Oh, yeah.
They've gotten to know my legal team so well. They have actually invited my legal team to your Thanksgiving. I'm not allowed to come.
It seems like a conflict of interest, honestly.
It's just people breaking bread. My legal team may be in Maryland for Thanksgiving. I am not allowed to come.
I'd rather them not.
Well, it's up to the lawyers. Everything's up to the lawyers. None of this is personal, Denny.
No, of course.
It's not personal at all. It's about the lawyers. This is the legal system. You don't believe in the American legal system?
Sometimes, if it works for me.
We digress. Kenny Gainwell, talk about hostile takeovers, outtouched, 18-2? DeAndre Swift, 0 touches for Rashad Penny since he was not playing, and in street clothes on the Eagles sideline. As so often happens with these things, though, guy comes in, wow, okay, I guess he's the starter, and then he gets hurt in the process, and then has a Thursday night game in the process. Kenny Gainwell nursing a rib injury. The Eagles playing on Thursday night against the Minnesota Vikings.
Yes,
Kirk Cousins is ready to lay a true stink bomb. What do we tell people at the Eagles backfield? With the caveat, we can't tell them a ton because we don't really know Kenny Gainwell's injury situation.
Yeah, I mean, Gainwell will probably see less work, even if he does play. He has a rib injury. Well, you really do need to monitor his practice participation on Wednesday, certainly Tuesday as well. So keep it locked in to Rotoworld. We'll have those updates. If he is limited, you would think that DeAndre Swift would be next in line, but you might think that might be wrong, Pat. It might be Boston Scott, and I'm not joking here.
And it might be Rashad Penny too, even though he's a healthy scratch.
Right. And he could be right. He could be active. DeAndre Swift couldn't even really get anything going in the passing game. 13 routes against the Patriots. He caught 1 of 2 targets for, I'm checking my notes. 0 yards. So, it's not looking good so you can't possibly start Swift, right? If Gainwell plays, I think that you can start him as top 25-ish back in PPR.
I would maybe keep him. If I had known Kenneth Gainwell was starting in week 1, I probably would have said like RB 29 to 32, which is about where I ranked him after Rashad Penny was healthy scratched. But
right,
the short week, the rib injury, the fact that it's Kenneth Gainwell, let's not forget that it is Kenneth Gainwell. I'd still probably keep him in the 29 to 32 range this week.
I do have a fun little stat here for Gainwell. This will be in my regression files column on Wednesday on Rotoworld if you guys want to check it out. He actually had both of Philadelphia's inside the 10 carries against the Patriots. No one else had a carry, including Jalen Hurts, which is curious and a little bit upsetting.
Yes, that is very. If Kenneth Gainwell does not play against the Vikings, man, I think Rashad Penny will start, just to be honest. They'll be like, he's a between the tackles guy. We made Kenneth Gainwell the between the tackles guy, but now he's out. It's Rashad Penny. Next year he takes the mic, and it will never be DeAndre Swift. Ever. Yeah, I want to repeat that. He doesn't have a Southern accent. I started giving him a Southern accent, but he will repeat that. It'll never be DeAndre Swift. If Kenneth Gainwell gets declared out Wednesday, would you play DeAndre Swift like anywhere?
No.
How much DeAndre Swift in DFS showdowns are you going to have?
So much. 100% exposure.
That's all I needed to hear.
I mean, just because it's disgusting. Like that's the thing about showdowns. You got to get dirty.
Are you going to captain Kirk Cousins in the showdown for this game?
Yes, because he's going to distribute the ball everywhere. He's going to pass 100 times, and no one will want him because it's primetime Kirk.
And which I think will be a valid argument. I would say anytime Kirk is becoming a valid argument. He is statistics almost never lie except for when it's Kirk Cousins.
Come on, man.
Kirk Cousins has never he has never lost a game where he was not 33 of 44 for 334 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's a stat line every time he loses a game. Every Vikings game, the first thing they showed you was Kirk Cousins' stat line. Oh, they won 28-17. No, they lost by 10 points to the worst team in the NFL, actually. But, that's just how it goes with Kirk Cousins. This guy like redefines fraud. I'm sorry, but I'm tired of it. I'm fed up.
Wow, you really are. You are fired up.
You were fed up. We talked all week last week about how the Bucs were going to win because we knew.
I appreciate Kirk Cousins being purely a product of fantasy football. I do appreciate that.
He is the ultimate. That is true. Kirk only cares about what matters.
I mean,
faith, family, fantasy football.
Him and Matthew Stafford are the two that like just products of fantasy football culture, and whether they know it or not, whether they like it or not, I'm sure they don't like it. No. But neither of them are all that great, but they produce a lot of points. So good for them.
Good for them. Good for us. We have a little more show left, but we have one more break to take. This Sunday night, AFC East rivals do battle in South Beach when Mac Jones, Bill Belichick, and the New England Patriots face Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on NBC and Peacock. And do not forget, find all your favorite NBC sports shows and Amazon Music. Just head to Amazon.com/NBC Sports. Tua Tagovailoa is American hero, Denny. American hero.
He's now talking about he's a machine. I mean, he's a fantasy machine.
He is. He's a new fantasy machine. One who might actually put up big numbers in games as team wins from time to time.
That's actually true. And that makes him much different than Kirk Cousins.
It's weird. The Dolphins are so weird. They have played in like 3 games of the year since last season. Like both their games against the Bills were like game of the year type situations. The game against the Chargers was, of course, game of the year material for week 1. And I think they had another one last year. I know both Bills.
Yeah, against the Bills in the playoffs.
Well, the Bills in the playoffs, that game was kind of bad because it was super close. That game wasn't as beautiful as the 2 regular season ones.
Yeah.
The playoff was Skylar Thompson, but it was an amazing game. But man, that game against the Ravens is what I was thinking of last year.
Oh man, I had that game. That was great.
Tua had 469 yards and 6 touchdowns in that game.
Yeah, I recall because I had him in a lot of spots. It was good. It's a good day.
The second Bills game was in the snow on a Saturday. Man, this is a weird team. I hope Miami Dolphins keep it up. Got a lot of Tua Tagovailoa in my managed leagues. Denny, who is the player that you were most concerned about after week 1? With the caveat, 1 game, blah, 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 blah. Who are you most concerned about after watching week 1 NFL football?
So many to choose from, really. Kyle Pitts. I regret to inform our listeners that Pat was right about Kyle Pitts.
Well, we were both right about certain things with the Falcons.
Well, yeah, but I was wrong on Pitts. I thought for sure, like it just has to happen with Pitts. That's what I thought. And it does not have to happen, it turns out. The only reason he scored any fantasy points last week is because he made an unbelievable downfield catch while being interfered with on a poor Desmond Ridder throw. So, I mean, wow, like it is bleak in Atlanta. We can maybe talk about a little bit about that. I'm sure we'll hit on that on the Thursday show as well.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't see many out or any outs for Pitts drafters or Drake London drafters, except for, and this is a terrible out, Pat, but I have to say,
I know where you're going.
If one of the other gets injured, like,
no,
you're
gonna say Taylor Heineke.
Well, maybe, but I'm just going with Ridder as the starter. Like one of them has to be out for the other to be viable, like we saw with Drake London last year, and I don't really see any other way that this is going to work for those two. I
will say, so what I was referencing with you being right with the Falcons was Tyler Algier being heavily involved in the running game. I really was. Maybe I'm stupid, but I was stunned that you were actually right about that. I truly cannot, because it's so it doesn't have to be this baffling. You don't have to be this inscrutable as an NFL team. You can use a top 8 pick on a skill player and then use them, is usually what you do when you draft a running back, especially in the top 8. So I was taken aback, but I also will say still 16 touches for Bijan Robinson. He's still the RB 6 or 7. And I sort of honestly think that's more of like his baseline than like his entry into committee hell. And I believe it was Mark Garcia on our recap show who made the point. Like, we'll see how much they really stick with this approach when they're not dictating the tempo of the game, which they did all day against the Panthers. Weren't like truly challenged by the Panthers. They kind of got to do like their Arthur Smith thing basically against the Panthers. But now when they're like playing from behind and like they can't get any big plays from the passing game in Desmond Ridder, when they're not dictating the pace and tempo of the game, then I think we're honestly going to get into more like 20-touch Bijan Robinson territory, because for the needing big play desperation. And I feel like this might be kind of a high watermark for Tyler Algier and kind of like a baseline for Bijan Robinson. This could also be what the Zoomers call cope. It could be coping.
you are huffing the copium, I think, right now. Here's the real concerning thing for Bijan, okay? The PPR stuff is great, and I believe I said that in the preseason.
You were literally 100% right. So
yeah, like PPR wise, he's gonna be fun as hell. Like, it's gonna be great. He's gonna be 6, 8, 10 targets a game. That's great. This offense is going to be predicated entirely around Bijan and Algier and literally nobody else. Okay, going forward here, but here's the real concerning part for Bijan: 4 green zone rushing attempts for Algier, 0 for Bijan Robinson. So they're not splitting the good stuff That's all Algiers right now. If that doesn't change, then we're going to be relying on Bijan Robinson receiving touchdowns, which is not something you want to rely on.
That was the one I had no answer for when I was talking on the recap pod. No way to spin the goal line stuff. Just no way to spin that. I just thought of a way to spin it, though.
Okay.
If Bijan, they're playing from behind, they need offense somehow, some way, and Bijan's running hot in a drive, I sort of think they're not going to like sub him out. But sure. Again, this is verging very strongly towards copium.
I can actually smell the copium.
I know. I'm huffing it. My wife is telling me it's making the whole house stink. I need to stop with the copium. The kids are begging Dad to stop inhaling Bijan Robinson copium. But what a baffling team! They're going to have to bench Desmond Ridder. I mean, quite clearly not going to work.
That's not going to happen.
We already knew this, I believe. The Falcons probably should have known it. Taylor Heineke. I think the Taylor Heineke ball can be a little better than it was with the Commanders. So I do think Arthur Smith, despite being like so frustrating, is almost like a Shanahanian type figure where he designs offense really well. I think they can like probably cut down on the Taylor Heineke turnovers, maybe get some more design shots to Kyle Pitts and Drake London, because Taylor Heineke, say what you will, he really likes to take shots, both downfield passing and to his ribs.
That's right. Yes. He likes both, and you got to respect him for that. No, it's just a matter of time till Heineke is under center. That Desmond Ridder's not an NFL starter. Let's just be honest about that.
Will Desmond Ridder make it till October?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
No. We're week 3. I'm thinking
he might be on benching watch in week 2. He actually might.
He's not. He's not a legit quarterback. And I think Heineke for fantasy purposes is way better than Ridder. So
for the entire operation, we should be wanting Taylor Heineke in there.
That could be. Yeah, I mean, I think you've talked me into this idea that Heineke could be the salvation for folks who drafted Pitts and London.
Which, it's sounding an awful lot like copium. It's got to get Taylor Heineke in there, man.
I think I accidentally ingested some copium.
You got a secondhand copium high. We don't need to talk too much more about the concern. I'm very concerned about Justin Fields because we didn't see one single iota of progress as a passer for Justin Fields. It was not there.
Yeah.
And the league is going to catch up to the running. That's just how he's not going to threaten as a passer. Like the running stuff's going to stop working pretty quickly.
So here's what we have. We return to the Matt Nagy days. That this is what happened in week 1, right? Where they completely forgot about 2022 and how good and fun that was. He had 0 design rushes and two rushes overall. Okay, so they told him, hey, you got to be Andy Dalton, Justin. You just drop back and you throw it, and that's not going to work. Come on, Justin Fields. Look at per the analytics is one of the worst passers in the NFL, and like by a long shot. Okay, so that whatever they did in week 1 is not going to work. I think eventually they will be forced to use him as they did last year, where he's getting 8 to 10, maybe 12 rushing attempts a game. That's
designed rushing attempts per game.
Yeah, and that's what we need. And that'll loosen up some defenses. Maybe it'll get DJ Moore in better positions. I will say DJ Moore had a nightmare matchup against Jair Alexander, who completely shut him down. I wouldn't worry too much about DJ Moore, but the Bears have to do something different. They cannot do this all year.
No, also concerned about a player the Bears are playing where Rachaad White really left the door ajar for Sean Tucker, right?
Sean Tucker.
I couldn't remember what Sean's last name was, but I was pretty sure it was Tucker.
Oh, it's Tucker.
So inefficient as a rookie, Rachaad White. And then one of the stats that went viral after week 1 was the negative rushing yards over expected for Cam Akers and for Rachaad White, who left almost 40 yards on the field. Basically just confirming he remains hyper inefficient as a rusher. This was in a game where they sprung the road upset, where you would think normally the rushing stats are going to pop off the page in that kind of game. Instead did the exact opposite for Rachaad White in the Bucs, where he is really on notice for losing that 3-down job. So we're concerned about a lot of people, but those are the 2 people who came to mind for me.
Right. So I do think Rachaad, in the long run, I think Rachaad White will hold on to the pass catching stuff in the Tampa backfield for whatever that's worth. I know that's not why you drafted him in particular. I think that Sean Tucker will eventually encroach on his early down work. And so that would make Sean Tucker somewhat viable, maybe, but it would definitely hurt, like crush Rachaad White's fantasy value and his usage or his prospects as like a running back 2 or 3.
Sean Tucker needs to be 100% rostered. He was already probably like 15% rostered. Maybe that's kind of high. He might have only been like 10 to 12%.
Yeah. Tucker and Joshua Kelley both need to be rostered in every 12-team league.
Man, you know, I hate waivers, by the way, man. So tedious.
I would like for waivers to be on Wednesdays. This is what I would like.
I would just like, somehow to be less tedious, but it will, quote, never be less tedious because there's no other way to do it.
Super tedious. Yeah.
Super tedious. We'll end the show by asking you, which player did you do the biggest 180 on with 1 week of data points? Again, 1 week, we're trying to not totally overreact, but you can't underreact. Sample sizes are small in football. You have to make really big decisions based on 2 or 3 games worth of sample size. Who did you do the biggest 180 on in week 1?
I guess Brandon Aiyuk. I just kind of didn't really look at him where he was going ADP wise. I did actually end up getting some of him in best ball. Apparently, I checked my best ball teams just before we recorded, and I was like, "Oh, hey, look, Aiyuk, that's cool."
You have 32% exposure to Aiyuk, apparently.
Right. I have $40,000 tied up in that Brandon Aiyuk. I'm kidding. But yeah, that's right. My lawyers are sweating now.
Yeah, Denny just gave quite a window in his financials there. We've been trying to get that for quite a while. The way that money is hidden all over the Caribbean, all over Europe.
Producer Adam can edit that out.
But continue.
So yeah, he's like by far and away the number 1 pass catching option for the Niners. Brock Purdy looks to him. He got Aiyuk got a ton of first read targets, meaning like plays were designed for him, like Purdy's looking for him. There's no fear in throwing it to Aiyuk. So I was woefully wrong on Aiyuk. Even if the Niners are very balanced or run heavy, Aiyuk will still get there most weeks.
I've done a 180 on Breece Hall, which is probably talk about creating whiplash for the audience, where I was playing the bad cop on Breece Hall all summer. But it was weird. I was wrong. And so I was wrong. Like, he looked healthy. Like, he looked healthy and he looked explosive. Like, he looked like Breece Hall, basically. Mm-hmm. Part of my fear was that would not be the case, that he wouldn't look like the Breece Hall we saw as a rookie. And it was going to take a lot longer for him to get his legs back. The legs appear to be back. I could end up being right by accident, though, just because what we talked about, the Jets offense, the offensive environment is going to be so bad for a while. And then I could back into being right, but Breece Hall, it's so sad. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers was healthy, Breece Hall was looking like a league winner.
Oh man,
like looking like a straight up league winner.
Our boy Crane was obviously 100% correct. Like if Rodgers is healthy, Breece Hall is probably the overall RB1 this year.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
I'm just saying.
looking good. He was looking really good. So Breece Hall was the one. Week 1 where I wanted to immediately mea culpa, basically. It's like, yikes. Real good. Looking real good. I'm trying to scan through the teams. It looks like I was right about everyone else.
you just missed the one.
Yeah, wow, only one wrong player take all summer. That's kind of cool.
I also may have been catastrophically wrong on Mike Williams.
I know. Well, the Chargers, we'll see. I'm not buying any of this run nonsense. It's total nonsense, I think. The Chargers, too, they always want to put on a brave face, and then they just become the Chargers again. I think we're going to get plenty of passes.
So here's something. What if this whole time Kellen Moore was the run establisher and Mike McCarthy was the pass establisher? What if we got that backward?
Would be quite something, wouldn't it?
And no.
You know what is funny? What was quite something is Dak Prescott having 143 scoreless yards in a game his team won 40-0.
That was
not at all saying that's a truth, Dak. I'm just saying fantasy football can be quite cruel. Your team was far too good for you to score fantasy points.
Yeah, I do think that once they got up 23-0, that you had to accept that it was. I'm going to use it again.
Over.
it was completely Jover for
It was Jover for Dak. It was Jover for NBC. Although people I think like to stick around and watch like an NFC East horror show. I watched it.
I enjoyed every second of it. I
really did. I honestly did.
And there's also this, just real quick. Dak Prescott was really bad, actually. Third lowest pass or completion rate over expected, on par with Daniel Jones.
It was just weird. I mean, I feel like that was like a good game where you just have to throw out all the stats, all the film. It was so haywire. Like I don't think you can take anything away from that. That game was about as haywire as an NFL game can go. But yeah, you would like to get some fantasy points from Dak Prescott when your team wins 40.
More than 5.
Yes, more than 5. I got 2.98 from Joe Burrow in the league.
Oh,
not a joke. Not a joke.
Man. The Bengals kind of forget to play until October.
They do. The Bengals are the classic, like this. This is such a lame phrase, but the Bengals get high on their own supply like 2 or 3 times a year. Where like they just like convince themselves they're the best team in the NFL and they're very, very good. But like they really, really swagger around for a team that hasn't. I mean, they've gotten so close.
Yeah.
They have the right to be confident, but like they get really overconfident like 2 or 3 times a year, where they're basically acting like they're the 3-time defending Super Bowl champions. And guess what? You're not.
No, they're not, and it's looking pretty bad. I have to say, just overall, the offense looked like the worst offense in the entire NFL.
Joe Burrow looked like he had never played football before. It was very weird.
What is it? Either the Browns are the greatest defense of all time, or the Bengals are a disaster. I don't know which.
Well, it was Jover for the Bengals left guard from the second the game started. And they were lining Myles Garrett up opposite him. This is what happened.
It really was.
According to the film watchers. We will never watch film. We will never continue this episode because it's over. Denny's got his regression files article coming on Wednesday. I have the rankings coming on Thursday. We have our preview show with Kyle Dvorak coming on Thursday. We have blurbs coming every day, updating all the key injury situations, including the ones you heard about on the show, the Chargers backfield, the Eagles backfield, the Steelers receiver corps, anything you can think of. Keep it locked to rotoworld.com. For Denny Carter, I am Patrick Daugherty. Thank you for listening. We'll be back in 48 hours.